Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ramble. I am your humble hermit host, Maria Legier, and this is more rambly than usual. I hope you enjoy it still. And this is alas, nothing has changed. Oh man, have I been out of the loop for a while. That's what hibernating for a month does to you, I suppose. Now I'm trying to get back into the loop, only to realize that nothing has changed. And, I fear, nothing ever will. The world is still insane, and arguing with a feminist, or any other identity-obsessed pundit for that matter, is still bloody pointless. Nothing ever changes. And this nonsense least of all. Granted, me roundhouse kicking my nicotine addiction in the teeth does contribute a bit to a certain grumpiness at the moment of writing and reading, and living. Getting back into the swing of things is difficult. There might be some optimism growing when once this rat bastard withdrawal leaves me alone, however long that will take. Nicotine craving has turned my mind to mush and caused me sleepless nights galore. Thus, rambles will be a bit on the easy side until my body and mind gets used to not getting a steady flow of nicotine. Probably it'll get better soon. There also seem to be some difficulties presenting themselves as I attempt to get back into the flow of writing after having been gone from it for so long. Oh my, but the written word is such a harsh mistress. Writing, rambling, raving and ranting needs to be constantly maintained and trained. Much like any muscle, atrophy is a frightening thing. On this very early morning, whilst attempting to enjoy my very early morning coffee without its usual buddy nicotine, and this is harder than it should be, I stumbled upon a discussion between a disgruntled feminist and a dude who was not a feminist. This happened, as it always does, on Reddit. And we might as well abandon Reddit to the whiny winds of the desert, the tundra and of Hell's Iron Gates, bedecked as they are by identity politics and other such outstanding pillars of the online community. Reddit is slowly dying. By its own hand, no less. Hate speech, they have concluded, is quite all right, as long as a majority is hated. Or something along those lines. Nonsense is nonsense, and newspeak leaves something to be desired for such reactionary bastards such as myself and others of the so-called majority. However, moving ever onwards to the tried and true formula of the day, the disgruntled feminist was disgruntled due to this dude mentioning something about the feminist agenda. One aspect of the agenda in particular being of interest to him, the erosion of due process, which sees the accused having to prove his innocence in cases of sexual assault, when it is supposed to be the other way around. Innocence shall not be proven, guilt is to be proven. And this don't matter anymore, of course. The word that triggered her ever so much was the word agenda. As a feminist, I would like to know what this feminist agenda is, she stated. Justified offense pouring out of her feminist fingers onto the digital platform where all is misogyny and women never dare to speak a word for fear of harassment. For one does not question feminism in any way, shape or form. She went on, as these people always do, with the whole not real feminism nonsense, and carried on with the typical nonsensical, condescending and honestly insulting piss-pottery that, since the dude in question believed that the sexes should be treated equally, he was in fact a feminist. And yet again I have to wonder how fucking arrogant and how whipped into conformity one has to be when so casually and so arrogantly placing a label upon someone's head despite his objections. One has to join their serpent cult come hell or high water, and this hive of scum and villainy wants for nothing more than a complete and utter monopoly on the concept of equality, than complete control over the fight for so-called equality. Equality, to the eyes of feminism, means of course that women shall be elevated to whatever status they imagine men have had, always have had. And this is only truth if I want to be particularly nice to this kind of cretin, which I am not at the moment willing to be. Equality, to the eyes of feminism, has little to do with anything resembling equality. It is supremacy, it is power, and it is control. Control of the discourse, the discussion, and the definition. Why these snarling assholes should hold a monopoly on anything is beyond me. But such is the way of things, apparently. Nothing is truth, except feminism. And this enlightened feminist went on to snarl and growl that the reason feminists are so angry when challenged, particularly by men, is because men have no idea what it is like to be a woman, as men have never spent any time in the shoes of a woman. To which the dude did not reply what he ought to have replied, which is very simple. Women have never spent any time in the shoes of a man either, yet feminism, women in general really, see fit to tell men how the lives of men are, how privileged we are, and other such utter nonsense. He did, as most who challenge feminism do when faced with the wrath and ire of feminism. He remained civil. Too civil. Hell knows no fury like a feminist scorned, and facts and stats don't matter when challenging dogma, nor when challenging an ideology running entirely on emotion and on the notion that subjectivity trumps all, when the subjective is from the perspective of a feminist woman. And the way I see it, he should have told her to fuck off unless she could reply in a civil manner. But, you know, justified anger and other such convenient excuses for not having to behave like they expect other people to behave. That men get angry about feminist women talking about the lives of men while simultaneously stating that men cannot speak about the lives of women or men does not matter, of course. Only feminism can speak on the lives of women and of men, despite the insistence, doubly confusing as it is, that feminism is a movement for women even when it helps men too, despite feminism not being about helping men, except when it is, when men try to help themselves and realize that feminism is quite contrary to men getting any help. Consistency is not necessary. Fuck that noise. Word salads are better. Men's anger is a terrible thing, and women's anger is completely and utterly justified after aeons of so-called oppression conjured forth through revisionist history and silly gender studies. Also, women intuitively know how the lives of men are, you have to understand. Men do not know how the lives of men are, because anecdotes don't matter and lived experience is only truth when it is the lived experience of a feminist woman. Or a man from the top 1%. That's the short, long, rotund and chubby of it all. The world is insane, and all and sundry seem to be caught up in the stream of this river of shit. Lovely. Come to think of it though, one woman, a feminist in fact, did spend some time in the shoes of a man. Her experience spawned the book Self-Made Man. Her name is Nora Vincent. Apparently, living as a man was not exactly what she expected. That is to say, what her feminist sensibilities made her expect. And who'd have thunk it? Who'd have fucking thunk it indeed? Not that it matters, of course. The lives of men are still considered playing life on easy mode. And when the lives of men aren't easy, it is the fault of men. Though not explicitly stated, of course. It is veiled and hidden and buried beneath the concepts of toxic masculinity or whatever the latest fancy pants jargon is. Masculinity has become an ideology, because everything has to be seen and considered and understood through some form of ideological lens, as biology no longer exists. Nor do truth, in fact. We are living in a post-truth world, where no truth exists except that which is considered truth by those who state that no objective truth exists. It is a strange world to exist within, which is why I'm checking out of the whole fucking thing, but more on that at some later point in time. The argument ended when the feminist decided to stop the whole thing by stating that she was not interested in further discussion, thank you very much, and besides, they seemed to be in agreement and he should really just refer to himself as a feminist, because what he did not like about feminism was not real feminism, because feminism is not a monolith, and so her feminism was a real feminism, despite that also being impossible, but hey, no matter and no worry. And this is so goddamn typical that it has quite simply become formulaic. Despite this thread not being on the men's rights subreddit, it is the same thing, the same threads that has been popping up on that subreddit every other day or so lately. Some concerned feminists come roaring in, tone policing batons at the ready, stating that we really ought to buckle down and be engulfed by feminism. Or, well, as they say it, cooperate with feminism on the path towards equality. Because we really all just want the same thing, you see. Except that this is not true, since feminism is anything but a movement for equality. Not real feminism, my ass. By my heel, I care not. Anyhow, howdy who and gobble my ears. What a surprise that the discussion should end like that. Now, her ending the discussion don't bother me all that much. Yet, I find it interesting that she was the one starting the whole shebang, and the one who saw fit to end it when she encountered resistance, as her usual shaming tactics and rhetorical tricks did not do what one assumes they usually do. Particularly not the "then you are a feminist" spiel of hers. There's very little about this fucking serpent cult that annoys me as much as that absolute god-awful trickery. It is an attempt at stealing the entire concept of equality, as well as forcing that lactic acid label of theirs upon other people. If feminism was for equality, as they claim to be, one should think they would not be so obsessed with getting people to refer to themselves as feminist. Then the egalitarian concept of equality would be all that was necessary, and this is not the case. The dogma, the ideology, the cult matters more than the concept of equality, whatever the hell equality even means in this dawn of the nonsensical screech and the hysterical feminist wail. The heathens must be converted, the label matters, the quest for equality does not. And speaking as someone who does not much care for labels, this obsession about labels bothers me quite a bit. Our whole society is obsessed with it. Woke Twitter, with their short bios, is a testament to this. There's nothing but empty labels. I am this and I am that. Yet, what the hell does any of it mean? Labels overcomplicate things. Even more so when the labels are nonsensical. I am a pan-romantic intrasexual omni-queer ladyboy with manly tendencies and a femme-foot fetish. Also, feminist Black Lives Matter and all life does not matter, sir. Okay then, but what does it mean? As my gender, when I had a Facebook account, I put non-binary translucent jellyfish. I still use this from time to time, and I've yet to be challenged on it, which is somewhat disconcerting. One must always be tolerant, you understand, no matter how nonsensical that which one must be tolerant about is. Intolerance is the no-no thing of the day, except intolerance about intolerance, which is an interesting notion in and of itself, as the self-contradictory nature of that is something to behold. And who decides what is and is not intolerant, but the one who is intolerant only where intolerance is concerned? Personally, I am very intolerant of those who do not tolerate intolerance. Jeez, see how tolerant I am by my intolerance, considering that I actually tolerate intolerance. We are human beings, for fuck's sake, not machines to be programmed into accepting, tolerating and whatever and whatnot, that which is to be accepted and tolerated in this day and age. Nothing ever changes, except the victims and the victors, except the in-group and the out-group. Now, let me tell you, it's not easy being a non-binary translucent jellyfish. I never get any attention due to my rather eccentric gender identity. People do not easily tolerate me. In fact, they find me icky. People usually chase me away from the beach as I lie there minding my own business, stark naked with my face down in the sand. Children poke me with sticks. Dogs try to eat me. I also tend to dry out in the sun, which is a damned bother all on its own. No sir, it ain't an easy life. And where's my goddamn tolerance? But I digress and ramble wildly, as is my custom when the flow is present and accounted for. No matter the evidence, no matter the actions, no matter the behavior, there will never be any real feminist. For anyone acting in the name of feminism who gives people such as myself a reason to attack feminism is not a real feminist, and never will be. The ones who influence the laws, who teach gender studies courses, who write the books and run the whole intellectual rabbit of feminism into the rabid rabble of feminism, its thought leaders and influencers are not real feminism. This despite them influencing this and that and the whole shebang. As it turns out, defending the name of feminism is more important than casting these cretins out of the movement. Very interesting, of course, very symptomatic of the disease, very clever and very typical. So-called real feminist or not. What does it matter when they change laws and teach the dogma through gender studies courses? Why can't we hate men? Oh, but feminism is not a monolith. If not, then the not real feminists are still just as real as the feminists deciding that these are not real feminists. It is self-defeating in that case. But of course, nothing matters but confusing the issue and keeping the dogma going, keeping the lambs coming to the slaughter, gathering young minds and infecting them with this virus. Fuck it. Discussion is as pointless as my unerring gutter mouth. And that, I think, is that for this ramble. I hope you enjoyed it more than my previous ramblings. Thank you very much for listening. Should you wish to support whatever the hell it is that I do with my blog and my channels, please see the links below where you can buy my books. And I'll catch you next time. As always, this is Muriel Gier, signing off.